Our Elohim is an Elohim of boundaries. Once he has decreed his boundaries, he fully intends for you and I to acknowledge them, to guard them, and to keep them. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, Day 3 of Torah portion Tavo. Let's go to Devarim, Deuteronomy, if you will, chapter 27. And here we read the instructions to Am Israel that they are to take 2 large stones on Mount Ebal. They are to plaster them, perhaps with lime, and on these stones to record the words of Elohim. I see these stones as boundary markers. Boundaries are important to Elohim. When Yah created the heavens and the earth, he put boundaries around the Shabbat. He put boundaries around fruit, that the seed inside must be capable of reproducing the same fruit. He put boundaries around the animal kingdom and the fowl of the air, the creeping things. He put boundaries of time in place. He put boundaries of the celestial bodies in place so that they move in certain cycles and certain times and seasons and years. He put a boundary around the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It said, stay away from that tree. When you and I keep the boundaries of the Most High, the blessing and the favor of Yah comes upon us. When we disobey and violate his boundaries, literally, as one verse in this chapter says, moving the boundary marker, there is a curse. If it's a curse for me to move your boundary marker, how much more of a curse if I move Yah's boundary marker? And so the people of Israel are to come through this valley. Now, I have stood personally on Elon Moreh. I keep wanting to say Mount. On Elon Moreh, this is the mount in which Abraham stood, communed with Yah in some visible format, some manifestation. And Yah calls him to scan this valley and look toward these 2 mountains. These 2 mountains, Gerizim is on the left. Ebal is on the right. There is a valley that comes down. I believe that the prophet Joel or Yoel calls this the valley of decision. And between Elon Moreh and these 2 mountains, the valley floor is the city or the land known as Shechem. Currently, in modern day times, it's a Palestinian-controlled territory, Nablus. The Arabs there wanted to name it in honor of Naples in Italy, but they don't pronounce the P, but rather use the letter B, and so Naples became Nablus. Interesting, I suppose, but the city still sprawls out in the valley floor. This is where Joseph is buried. This is also a place that, by its name, Shechem, refers to the neck area, the shoulders, on which the head will either look to the left or to the right. The turning of the head, which way am I going to go? Am I going to choose the blessings that are placed upon Mount Gerizim or the curse that is placed on Mount Ebal? Now, it's very knowledgeable to many today that Mount Gerizim has springs of water on it. It's green. It's got vegetation, and it's a usable place. Mount Ebal, to this day, looks dry, barren, and desolate. The blessing was placed on Mount Gerizim, the curse on Mount Ebal. The evidence of blessing and cursing in our day, sometimes it looks as if they get mixed up. Those that rail against the Most High, those that violate the integrity of our streets with violence and upheaval, those who slander and accuse, those who are abusive or even aborting of children, it seems that they get by with whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Psalm 73 describes a young man that is overwhelmed by this. He says, here I am. I'm trying to do what is right. I've washed my hands in innocence. I look and I see those that rail against you. They're not caught up with any any problems, yet I am afflicted all day long. He said, this seemed to be out of hand and topsy-turvy. It's out of balance. And he said, my feet had almost well slipped. I was losing confidence in my walk until, I believe verse 17 says, I went into the sanctuary. And then I understood their end. It may seem that Mount Tavo may spring up with some greenery on a magical occasion, figuratively speaking, and we get disconcerted about that, but the curse is intact. The psalm writer says, then I understood the peril of their end, how suddenly they're taken, and what horrors they're taken in. He said, I have no one else in heaven but you. But who else do we need? We look around us and we wonder how long, oh Yah, before vengeance comes. The souls that are under the altar that are crying out, how long, oh Yah, before vengeance? Is that the souls of the millions of aborted children whose blood are crying out from the land? Yah will not look at wickedness and wink at it. My phrase is, and I've taught this many times, judgment delayed very well may be judgment intensified. Sometimes as children, you may remember a parent saying, I'm going to give you a whipping. In my case, it was a whooping. Whippings are harder than whippings, I can tell you that. And so rather than delay the inevitable, let's go ahead and get this over with so that the pain starts and is over as quickly as possible. But when judgment is threatened and promised, you know Yah doesn't forget. He does give space for repentance, for teshuvah, for turning, so that his wrath may relent. But if not, the judgment only becomes greater. You and I need to understand that Yah's boundaries are as firm today as they were when they were first given. Yah doesn't play. He fully intends for us to understand, just as these mountains still indicate, that cursing and blessing still are a part of his economy. And it is up to you, along with the multitudes in the valley of decision, to turn and look one way or the other. It's interesting that as Joseph is buried, that it is his seed, the house of Ephraim, the house of Israel in particular, who needs to pay attention to this. We have found ourselves indoctrinated and taught and given learning and systems that really don't pay attention to these things. There's nothing available but blessing. Even after praying, Father, forgive me of my sins, come live in my heart. If we walk waywardly from him, if we walk worthy of cursing, the curse still stands. So we need to understand these things. Let's also remember that as we have put the mezuzah on our doors, maybe on the post where our mailbox is at the end of the driveway, into our inner rooms in our home, the idea is that we turn the mezuzah so that the blessings contained in the scroll on the inward part would spill over into the room. Don't think it a magic charm that automatically protects you from evil, that automatically assures us that the presence of Yah dwells with us. Putting a mezuzah on the door and then still walking worthy of a curse does not preclude the curse from finding a place to land. We need to understand that these things are to be taken seriously. If we've invited the Most High into our home, then let's allow our home to be a safe haven for him, for his presence, where he is welcome, where he is the influencer, where his presence leads and guides us on a continual basis. Am Israel walked through this valley. They placed these boundary markers where they were supposed to go. They offered the appropriate offerings. They didn't always live according to the works that they had accomplished. Yah picked them up and cast them out of the land. I don't want that for you, nor for myself. So as we put our mezuzahs in place, we declare the boundaries of Yah as we decree his word. Let's walk in it. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.